Hi everybody, this is Don the Mushroom Hunter, and I'm here with my good friend Josephine Nakakande, who I've been spending a week with her and her husband Robert here in Kent, Ohio. Josephine and Robert are visiting from Uganda, and Josephine's executive director. Here's Robert. Come on in, Robert. Say hello,
Hello.
To the YouTube.
Hi,
So they're both with EcoAgric Uganda, which is a nonprofit that does many things, but amongst them is helping women start their own mushroom growing business. And so it's an amazing organization. So much going on there. I'll have a link down in the comments so you can check out what they're doing and make a donation so these women can start some mushroom growing. It takes very little to get a mushroom block going in Uganda, and so maybe just do a quick little overview of why you're here and what we're doing.
Hi, Dan, the Mushroom Hunter. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate. Josephine Nakakande, the Executive Director, Environmental Conservation and Agriculture Enhancement Uganda, EcoAgric Uganda, and I came along with my colleague, the Programs Manager, Mr. Robert
Muau,
who also
Programs
happens
Manager.
to be my lovely husband.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yes, so EcoAgric Uganda is a community member-based organization established way back in 2007 and aims at sustainably improving livelihoods of the critically vulnerable and absolutely poor people in Uganda. We have operations in 3 districts of Uganda, which is Wakiso district in central Uganda, Hoima district in southwestern Uganda, just near Lake Albert, and also Chivale district, which is also a rural district of Uganda. We support the women, the children, and the youth with our major target on the girls. We promote mushroom growing as a source of income and livelihood. We came here to attend the Ohio Mushroom Festival, where we were selling products made by the women. These products were made by the women after they sold off mushrooms. Because of you and your support, they were able to grow mushrooms. So when they grew mushrooms, they sold them off and bought fabric so that they can sell off these materials, and they are able to grow mushrooms as a source of income. The mushrooms that we majorly promote are white oyster mushrooms. We are still struggling with the lion's mane. I would like to appreciate Dan for all the support and the love. I can never forget one person, Vint, for getting us here.
Yeah.
So that is EcoAgric Uganda.
Great. So Josephine has been on my radar since last year, where she spoke at MycoFest, a mushroom festival in Pennsylvania, and then was coming to the Ohio Mushroom Festival, which was just last weekend in Hammondsville, Ohio, and I saw her speak there as well, and saw her tent full of amazingly beautiful dresses and shirts that were made by the Ugandan women. And basically, we've been kind of spending the week together. Josephine and Robert got to visit several mushroom farms in the area. Tip of the Cap, which I just realized Robert is wearing that shirt, so Tip of the Cap mushrooms. The Spore Store you visited yesterday. You visited Epiphany Mushroom, which is, again, where I'm the director of mycology. And so they've been pretty successful growing oyster mushrooms, very successful growing oyster mushrooms. They're trying to get lion's mane mushrooms up and running. That's proving to be slightly more difficult, right?
Very stubborn.
Yeah, they're very stubborn mushrooms. Not native to Uganda, so that's one of the issues, is that the environment's a little different. But with all of these visits to these mushroom farms, they have a lot of information now. They've learned a lot. They've received some equipment and different things that they can kind of move forward with to build like a flow hood, so they can do better culture transfers basically in a sterile environment, and some sterilizers and some substrate things to experiment with. So I think when you get back home, you're going to have a lot of work to do, right?
Please make sure you follow and see what we are doing, because we have a lot of new amazing things that we are going to do.
Yeah, and for sure I'll be linking to Josephine's Instagram and all your other social media too, and really take a look at what she's doing. Lots of videos all the time, all kinds of different themes per day. You know, every day is kind of a different themed video, and she does some amazing content. So we're here in Kent, Ohio, hiking in the woods, and I kind of scouted this location and found 3 different species that I wanted to talk about. However, just on the way out here, Josephine found a 4th species that I didn't even see. So we're not going to necessarily pick these, but down here is these are honey mushrooms. And
honey mushrooms.
Yes, there's a cluster here. There's a small cluster there. Honey mushrooms are a parasitic mushroom. They grow in clusters. I'll pick one here so we can see what's on the bottom. So they have white stems. They have a veil that's covering the gills. So they have gills there, but you can't see them. So once the cap pulls away, you'll start to see the gills. These are edible mushrooms. They actually taste very good, generally found in the spring and fall. And basically, these are kind of small. Now, if you find a bunch of these this size, I would say go ahead and harvest them, because even though they're very small, they're going to taste really good. Most of these mushrooms, once the cap starts to open up or starts to turn upside down, they don't taste as good. They start to maybe get a little bitter. The texture can get a little chewy or kind of chalky, and they're way more likely to be filled with larvae and other bugs. So the sooner you get to them, the better. And generally, when I'm picking a mushroom like this, I'm going to take a look at the stem. And you're probably not going to see this, but the stem is completely solid. If there are a bunch of holes in the stem, that means insects have started to eat their way up. And very often the larvae start in the soil, and they start eating their way up the stem. And so if I see holes, I cut a little more. And if I see holes, I cut a little more. And sometimes the insects haven't made it up to the cap, and then we can just eat these.
Okay.
The one thing about these mushrooms, and actually one of the other species that we're going to look at, is they have to be really well cooked. So honey mushrooms, if you don't thoroughly cook them, they can cause stomach issues. They're not necessarily toxic, but some people have a hard time digesting them. But a really good mushroom, something that you find very often in the fall and sometimes in the spring, and often grow in giant clusters. The sad part about certain species of honey mushrooms is that they are a parasitic mushroom, and so if they are growing near a living tree, they could very well be slowly killing that tree. So they might parasitize the tree, they might kill the tree, and then they'll continue to decompose. So there's the little cluster that's in front of us here is at the base of a dead tree, completely dead, no leaves. Looks like a black cherry tree, and so they're either killed. They might have killed that tree, or they're definitely decomposing it now. I was telling Josephine, I like to not see these in the woods, because if you do see them, that could mean that the trees might be unhealthy. But we have plenty of healthy trees here too.
So in case you found them, please comment down where you found them, and you can also share a picture with us where you found it. So comment down below on the video. And then you talked about cooking them well.
Yeah, very thoroughly cooked.
How do you ensure that they are thoroughly cooked?
Basically, I would say you want to cook them for like 8 to 10 minutes. You know, if you're cooking them in a pan, just really cook the heck out.
Boiling, or the way
just saute is good. Some people will boil them first and then saute them. You don't have to do that. You just have to. The thing about mushrooms is the more you cook them, the better they taste anyway. So if you overcook your mushrooms, they're going to taste better. If you just cook your mushrooms normally, like, I don't know what that means to a lot of people. Experiment with, when you think they're done, cook them about 4 minutes longer. Cook them until they're caramelized, until they start to get brown and nice and crispy edges. That not only ensures that possible stomach issues will be avoided, but they're going to taste so much better. They taste so much better than if you taste a raw mushroom. Most of the time, it doesn't taste good. And if you just gently cook it, the flavor's okay. When you really cook it well, yes, my knees are getting sore too. When you really cook it well, you're gonna have a much better experience. But anyway, thanks Josephine for finding this. Now let's go find
There are two
some
clusters.
of the others.
There is this one and the other one.
Yeah, and I bet if we look around, there might be more.
Oh, I can do it like a task for the day, looking for more here.
So this is a pretty, I was a little surprised to see some of these mushrooms today because we're in a drought. It hasn't rained in 2 weeks or more, and the last time it rained was not very much. And I think a lot of people get very discouraged, especially mushroom hunters, when it hasn't rained. So how the heck are we finding these mushrooms in a drought? Well, first of all, it depends on the mushroom, but this one in particular is a hen of the woods, also called maitake.
Hen of the woods!
Hen of the woods. So come on in and take a look at this beautiful thing. This is growing at the base of an oak tree. And hen of the woods is an interesting mushroom because it's one of several mushrooms that grow from what's called a sclerotia. And a sclerotia is a mass of mycelium that is buried deep down in the dirt, and that sclerotia is what sends them creates the mushroom. And so even though it's very dry on top, there's more moisture down in the dirt, and that sclerotia can absorb the moisture and produce a mushroom. And so sometimes when it's very dry, we can still find mushrooms like this because of that. Or sometimes mushrooms that are growing on stumps and logs, they can also have a lot of moisture trapped in the stumps and logs and produce the mushrooms. So again, you don't have to, even in times of drought, you can still find mushrooms. You just have to look harder. But this is called Grifola frondosa, maitake or hen of the woods. In Japanese, the dancing mushroom, which you would love because you love to dance. This is a.
How does it dance?
How does it dance? I think there are several stories of why it's called the dancing mushroom. One of them is that people get so excited when they find one that they dance, right? Mm-hmm. They do a dance because they found this amazing mushroom. One of the other stories, I believe, is just the way it looks. It kind of looks like it's dancing because there are so many different fronds or like petals coming out. This is one of my absolute favorite mushrooms to eat. I've eaten, I think, 120 or something, well over that, different species of mushrooms. This is so delicious and so meaty and so flavorful. It is way up there in one of my top 5 favorite mushrooms. So we're gonna kind of pull this, and what I like to do with these is just to kind of get my fingers under here. This is all one single mushroom. It looks like a bunch of little mushrooms. It's one cluster. I'll try to break it apart. Whoa,
there you go.
Look at all those little buggies under there. I'm loving this thing.
Snails.
So this is a beautiful specimen. So hen of the woods are kind of brown to grayish on top. They're usually bright white underneath. They do not have gills. This is what's considered a polypore mushroom. So instead of having gills underneath, it has little tiny pores. That's where the spores are going to come out. And again, this is all one giant mushroom.
Oh, wow.
The good thing about it being in a drought is that when we find these and it hasn't rained, they're going to be much cleaner. If you think about this mushroom growing here, if it rains really hard, the dirt splashes up into the mushroom. Little chunks of leaves and sticks get in there, and the mushroom grows around the dirt and the sand and gets embedded inside. And I've had some of these where I haven't tested them, and I've cooked them and made a delicious meal, and every mushroom has sand in this inside. You don't see it, it's in there. So that's what one of the good things about a drought is that these things can last are very, very clean. And so generally speaking, when I harvest these, I'll harvest it and I'll just kind of cut off all the dirt. And so I'm going to reach in and get my, hopefully get my knife here. I'll edit all this out. There's my knife. I swear. What, can you hold that for me? Put it in my... Oh, that's... All right.
Dancing mushroom!
Yeah, dancing mushroom. This is why it's called a dancing mushroom.
This is a dancing mushroom.
Yes.
Dancing for it.
Even the hawk is happy. So one thing when I harvest mushrooms is I see a lot of people that just pick mushrooms and put them right into their bag or right into their basket with all the dirt still on them. And then they pile more mushrooms with more dirt. And you just have to end up cleaning the mushrooms too much. Especially if this one doesn't, but mushrooms that have gills, all that dirt can get in the gills and they're very hard to wash. So usually what I do is I just pick this, I'm gonna cut off the dirty bits, and some of the stuff around the edge that's not so good. There are definitely some bugs inside of here, little pill bugs and things. One time I found a salamander, a little salamander, a little amphibian, like a lizard, inside of here, so you have to be careful. Yeah, we'll kind of take this. Sometimes I just kind of do this. This really makes the bugs mad, and they'll come out. And I'm gonna kind of clean it that's pretty clean. I'm gonna stick this in my basket, but oh, this is so delicious. We had some of these the other night that I just cooked in a little olive oil with some fresh thyme, and they're so good, very meaty, a very good meat. Oh,
delicious.
So delicious. But one of my favorite mushrooms. But we're only a third of the way there. We have other mushrooms to take a look at today. So, let me put this in the basket, and let's go find something that is nearly impossible to miss if you see it in the woods.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so this is beautiful. This is the one that I said it's hard to miss. It's so brightly colored. So this is chicken of the woods. This is a species of Mycopreneur, which is also kind of a it can grow in summer, but it prefers fall and spring. It likes it a little colder. This mushroom here is growing off an old oak stump. There are sometimes it's growing on the side, like last year some more was growing here. This is another polypore that's very similar to the hen of the woods. It doesn't have gills underneath. This is also a very meaty mushroom. Sometimes it's hard to take this off. I'm gonna set this here, but you can see it's bright orange on top. It grows in this kind of shelf fan kind of shape, and this is a big mushroom.
Very big.
Oh,
Don't break it.
broke a little bit. Whoa, it has a lot of bugs in this thing. But yeah, look at this. Beautiful orange on top with very often kind of these concentric rings, and then bright yellow underneath. There's a species of chicken of the woods that has a white underside, still edible, very delicious. This is another very meaty mushroom. You can see lots of bugs coming out of this. There's bugs flying around. There are some things inside. Insects love mushrooms just as much as humans. So very often you're gonna find insects in there. Now this one, I would have loved to have found this 3 days ago because it would have been a little juicier, a little thicker. So what's going on if you feel this? Feel how hard it is on the inside, right? That's very, very tough. But then now feel the edges, right? Softer, a little juicier. So something like this, you're not gonna wanna eat the whole inside of the mushroom like you can with this, the hen of the woods. The hen of the woods will be tender all the way through. This is like wood, right? Very hard. So very often when I find this, I'm gonna cut the edges off and just take the juicy parts around the edge. Chicken of the woods is another mushroom that some people have some stomach issues with, especially if they harvest it too late, it's too old. Sometimes it gets kind of dry and chalky, a little crumbly, but people still try to eat it. And they don't cook it enough. This is another one where you really want to cook it a lot. But it's called chicken of the woods because it does have the texture of chicken. It's very meaty. It's kind of it has a very mild flavor, like chicken as well. It doesn't have a strong mushroom flavor. Hen of the woods, very strong mushroom flavor. This is very, very mild. So like something like this, I would probably, take a piece like this, and I'm just gonna cut this part off. This part is very, very tough. Right, feel that. It's a little juicy, but it's still pretty tough on the inside compared to this nice juicy outer side. And I'm also looking, and I don't see any holes. So if I see holes going all the way out to the edge, I might not want to eat this.
It has a real mushroom smell.
Yeah, it does smell mushroomy and very fresh. But yeah, a delicious mushroom. I'm gonna definitely take some of this back to eat as well. Have you ever eaten this kind?
Yes.
Yeah.
At the festival we had it.
Oh, okay. The Ohio Mushroom Festival?
Yes.
Great.
And at Mycopreneur, Mycomenta, it was harvested, but we could not eat it.
Oh, okay. So this is something that people have been cultivating. People have been cultivating outdoors on logs for a little bit, but they're just figuring out how to successfully cultivate this indoors. Okay. And there are a couple of different methods. The one I've seen recently is they grow it in substrate bags inside in the bag, but they don't open the bag, and they let it grow out of the filter patch. It'll just start growing out of that filter patch and grow into very nice shelves like this. I think there might be other techniques as well, but I think it's proven to be a little tricky to cultivate this.
Like lion's mane.
A little bit like lion's mane, maybe even trickier than lion's mane. People have been able to dial that in at least a little bit easier than this thing. But again, hard to miss. I mean, this bright orange thing that really stands out in the woods amongst all of this gray and green and brown. But yeah.
So interesting how nature can be so beautiful and useful.
Yeah, just it's mind blowing. But yeah, another great mushroom. I think I have one more left to show you. So
really?
Yeah, let's check that out. All right, so this is the last species that we're going to talk about today, and this is growing right on the edge of our yard here. So right, kind of where the woods is starting. This mushroom is called a Birch Polypore, or Fomitopsis betulina. It only grows on birch trees, which are a kind of a cold weather tree. We have some birch trees, which is this tree here with the white bark. We have some birch in Ohio, but the more north you go, the more birch you find. In Michigan and in Canada, there are way more of these. This mushroom is very interesting. Take this whole thing, it's very hard. And it is another polypore, just like hen of the woods and chicken of the woods. There are no gills. Look at all the little bugs there. They're loving that. But basically, this mushroom is not. I wouldn't just eat this. When I tried to eat this one time, it was very bitter. Like I couldn't even. I took one bite and couldn't eat it. But it is used for medicine. So this mushroom has been used for a long time. Even I don't know if you've heard of Otzi the Iceman. This was a really old human that was frozen, and they thawed him out. He had this mushroom with him, and they speculate that it was used by early humans and lots of indigenous cultures throughout time for wounds, because it stops bleeding and helps to heal. For used internally in teas and tinctures for boosting your immune system, and for other things as well. And now they've been studying this mushroom, and they've confirmed that it does that it has anti-cancer properties, it has immune boosting properties, and many other things. So again, a very interesting mushroom. There's another small one growing here, but this was from we have birch trees in our yard, and these just fell off the tree during a storm. We moved them over here, and these mushrooms started growing this year. So again, it's not necessarily something we're going to look for to eat, but
now
we can.
that it doesn't have pores. Pores.
It doesn't have gills,
Doesn't have gills.
but the spores come out of the pores underneath. So they're kind of well, I'm not seeing any now, but basically to use this, you would slice it, you would dehydrate it, and then you would make a tea, or you soak it in alcohol to get the immune boosting compounds. All of those compounds would come out, and then you would take that little bit of tincture or drink the tea. So again, not something we want to cook and eat, but a pretty interesting mushroom that I figured we'd talk about since it's right here growing in my yard.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. So yeah, this has been a great day. We've been hanging out all day. Follow Josephine. Take a look at what she's doing. Throw it out there. Share it. Again, it's amazing once you really look and see what we're all doing here. And it's mushrooms that are bringing us all together, right? We've made so many friends just over this hobby of growing mushrooms, hunting mushrooms. I also want to give a shout out to Robert, who's now the camera person, and our neighbor Vicky was doing all the camera work earlier. So I want to give a shout out to these people. But gosh, so happy to have finally met Josephine in real life. And very sad that that you're going to be leaving tomorrow, or leaving in a couple days. But I'm not going to see you after tomorrow. But we're going to have a great day today as well. And yeah, check out EcoAgric Uganda. All the links will be in the description below with all of her social media. And
So glad to find families to connect with you. Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for everything. We've been so comfortable. When someone starts singing, then you know that person is feeling at home.
And you sing a lot, so that's saying a lot.
Thank you so much. Please convey our sincere thanks to your wife, Sarah, to everyone who has loved us, supported us, welcomed us. We really feel at home. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Happy hunting.